ladies and gentlemen, Coach Bill Cowher.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hey, so you know what? I was waiting on Luke Combs, and my wife is a songwriter and singer as well. So letting him talk about his pain of Carolina, but also the process of writing songs, I was enjoying that very much. So feel free to stay on and let me wait another 5 minutes.
I am happy. I am happy we got that messaging out as well. I'm happy.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that we were a platform for that. As it was happening, I want to let you know, as it was happening, back of my mind is like,
not again.
Coach Bill Cowher's going to be like, what time is this 1:30 meeting supposed to start?
Yeah. Exactly. That's fine. I would have, Luke Combs, if he was late, he'd have been sitting outside the door shut, and asked me about the meeting. I said, ask one of your teammates who was at the meeting on time.
And then you're getting fined as well. Coach, we appreciate you waiting around. And
yes.
You're not a man that should ever wait, but every time we get a chance to chat with you, it feels like we get motivated, inspired, and pumped up. Let's start right there in Carolina because we were talking to Luke Combs.
Yep.
He seems to be dining out. Should we what are your thoughts on, because obviously you're down there close, NC State Wolfpack Hall of Famer, I believe, and alumni, obviously. Your story, huge down there in Carolina, even though you're a Pittsburgh guy. Whenever you think about that Panthers team, what do you think we should be expecting if you're a Luke Combs or one of their 125 fans?
Right.
Well, yeah, 125. So Dan Morgan came in, right? Dave Canales comes up. I think for Dave, it's kind of okay. Let's kind of start from ground zero. I mean, I don't understand the Burns trade, to be quite honest with you. I think it's got to identify leadership in that locker room. And the girl you had on yesterday, the beat writer down there, when you asked that question, who they building around? There is no leader in that locker room, so they got to identify who that is going to be, who they can build that kind of culture with. And so, I feel bad for Bryce Young at this point. I think one thing they can do right now. They signed offensive lineman. You know what? Run the football. That, to me, is one thing they have to do right now is run the football.
Hey, speaking of direction, what direction would you go if you were Canales doing his first team meeting whenever you go into OTAs there to talk to that squad?
So I think the biggest thing I said, Pat, was I think right now with what they're doing to get offensive linemen is they got to establish the running game and run the ball, take the pressure off of Bryce. I thought lean on the defensive side of the ball also, and that's where I was kind of confused with Brian Burns being traded. So I think you got to go back right now. I get concerned in the second year for Bryce Young is him losing confidence. And I think that's the biggest thing to me is getting back to run the football, something I think they should have been doing more of. I think they start doing more of that for Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett. For young quarterbacks, a guy like C.J. Stroud comes along, he was able to process information and adjust to the speed of the game very quickly. But that's all. He's the exception, not the rule.
Okay, I agree. I think a lot of people are going to think that they're going to do a Houston Texans turnaround, and that is certainly possible. We just witnessed it, but there's a lot of brains and personalities in that building that are able to change the culture quickly. Speaking of doing that, let's go to Tone Diggs in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Coach, let's talk about what the offseason has been. One of the more exciting off seasons in Pittsburgh in a long time. Obviously, they bring in Russ Wilson. They bring in Arthur Smith, who I assume you're happy with because you just mentioned they should have ran the ball more for Kenny Pickett. What are your thoughts on bringing in Russ Wilson and what they've done so far? And then on the other side, what does it say about Russ Wilson that the Broncos were okay with taking on an $85 million dead cap to just part ways with him?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, obviously they inherited Russell, both ownership and the coach and Sean. I thought Russell played very well last year. I think the year before he was embarrassed by how he played. I think the whole situation there was one where he had to kind of recapture his confidence, more of his identity, and I did a very good job. That is, his DNA is running the football. That's what Pittsburghers want to hear. They have the Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, and that offensive line. I think putting Kenny Pickett and you put Russell Wilson under the center, they both are great rollout passers in the play action game. You don't have to change styles. And I think it's going to be a very healthy competition that they have. One's at the beginning of his career, the other's at the latter end of his career. I'm sure that conversation was had with Mike very early in that situation. Listen, you got a window of time right now with T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Micah Fitzpatrick, You got some great defensive players, and I think it'd be a disservice not to make sure that you take care of the other side of the ball to maybe try to bring this unit together and get a run that they can make. It's a tough division, but I like what they did.
I love hearing you talk about Carolina with Bryce Young, like, hey, let's run the ball. Pittsburgh people are thinking the same thing with Russell. Hey, let's run the ball. We got a great defense. Right. Let's run the ball. In Pittsburgh, mostly because of you, and also, I guess, with Noel before you, it's like Pittsburgh fans like being a physical football team. Pittsburgh fans like when the defense is smothering. They like whenever the offense is controlling the line of scrimmage. Not every city necessarily wants that. Pittsburgh wants to be the more physical team. I think that is a real thing, don't you?
Absolutely. And I think if you look at the 4 teams that were in the Final Four of the NFL last year, I think you talk about the running back, you were talking about earlier, the market, and all these guys got picked up. What Isaiah Pacheco did, what Christian McCaffrey did, these were 2 guys that were 2 dominant players on their respective sides. Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit, Gus Edwards in Baltimore, and they're all 4 of these teams. You know, Kansas City got right when they started running the football and having more balance in their offense. And I think that you saw with all 4 of those teams, the running game being an integral part of their offenses. It helps the defense. It helps offensive linemen develop because you take the pressure off of them now having to pass block every down. So I'm a big believer. Listen, I'm all for passing the ball. We were one of the teams that spread it out, and we had, Cordell Stewart playing receiver. We had 5 receivers out there. But I know one thing. There's a mentality that you have when you know you can close a game. And there's a physicality that you can apply that you're more physical than a team that you're playing against. I always said, you throw early to run late.
God, you see, he started getting into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he started getting jacked up, Coach. We started getting really jacked
I did.
Yeah. So did we. I want to let you know that. We're running into a hard out here in about a minute and a half, although the show will continue on YouTube and ESPN+. Darius J. Butler has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, I want to ask you, hi, what's up? Good to see you. How tough is it going to the draft? You're obviously in the draft period right now. What positions do you feel are the toughest in today's NFL to kind of project to that next level? I know the Steelers over the past, decade or so, they always knock it out of the park with receivers. Seems like they haven't found a corner in a while. What are those toughest positions right now to project that next level when you're at this time of year as a coach?
I think the quarterback position is the toughest one because of the process of information. But I also think when you look at the corner position, Darius, and you know as well as I do, the speed of the game, how open the game is, the receivers and how big they are, how fast they are, to acclimate to that, and just the officiating that you have to be able to acclimate to. I think for offensive linemen, I think it's a very deep year this year, and that's why you don't see as many offensive linemen going in free agency. And that's why I think what you're going to see is a lot of offensive linemen going early. And if you're going to take a defensive back, do what the Chiefs did. They drafted about 2 or 3 of them and just threw them right into the lineup and said, you know what? You're going to be able to play man-to-man early. The zone will come as you get that understanding of the game.
Yep.
The zones will get a little tighter. So I just think playing these guys early helps develop the team. And all of a sudden, you saw what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. They've been a model for playing guys early on the defensive side of the ball, and you can see what's resulted in the last couple of years.
That was phenomenal work. We got 8 seconds until the hard out. You knew it. You had the shot clock in
there. Yeah, I knew.
Hey, we'll see you tomorrow. See you later. Take care on ESPN News.